Take a Ride podcast. I'm your host here, Starks. You can find me on my Twitter handle. It's at Starks_industry. You can also find me on Instagram, One Closing Hero. I'm not here alone this evening, morning, afternoon, wherever you may be in the fantasy world. I have the combo guard running into Jacob the White Knight. How you doing today, brother?
I'm doing well, brother. You know, I got to carve the turkey at my Friendsgiving last night, so I'm feeling very accomplished today.
Awesome, man. You got the gump cut going on. You're ready to go,
right.
huh?
Oh, yeah, ready, dude.
Nice. And then we got the wingman running the three, LT the Sage. How you doing today, brother?
I'm doing good. I'm gonna get some flack for having you on the bottom again. I tried to fix it real quick, but I couldn't.
Come on, man. Come on.
But it's all good. Ready to get some going over some info.
Oh man, good on a Sunday. God is good, and it's just unfortunate. Right. You always want to put me at the bottom. I think that's what secretly you had that in your gut, as Lewis would say. So, you know, that is what it is. But in this episode in particular, ladies and gentlemen, what we're going to do is just touch up on the streaming options for Week 6. And here's your quick commercial. Make sure you guys go on to newlifefantasy.com, join the member list, join as a member. That way you can look on our forum. We have some interesting news for you listeners out there that you might be accustomed to and you might want to do and probably chat it up or put a message out in that aspect. But make sure you guys do that. Subscribe. Go ahead and Take a Ride podcast. Subscribe to the podcast. Give us a 5-star review. Keeps things going for us. And also the YouTube channel that we are doing even for this episode in particular. Sub-Zero that subscribe button at the bottom. Hit that dinner bell so that way you could be notified when the YouTube channel is dropped, as well as comment below. And when you hit the thumbs up as well, comment on any things that you guys want to see in the future episodes, because LT is putting the hard work behind the YouTube channel for us to get things going. And again, like I said, it's going to just be more of the streaming options. That's going to give you the bang for your buck or the punch for Week 6. That's going to help you guys. You could consider a redraft shallow league, but at the same time, some of these streaming options that we want to still formulate can be picked up in a dynasty format. And as well as we'll go and dive into the streaming list that Jacob is putting the hard work on day in and day out on a weekly basis to give you guys on an early Saturday. So without further ado, I'm ready to take people on for a ride. So we are going to go to the streaming articles. But before we do that, I want to pass you the ball there, Jacob, if you want to run the offense on a listener question that was provided to you, man.
Thank you, brother. Yeah, so this question comes from a listener in a 12-team 9-cat Dynasty League. He was offered Lonzo Ball for his Markelle Fultz. So before I give my thoughts on that, I'm going to pass the rock to the Dynasty Master here, Starks, and see what you think, brother.
Yeah, how deep was that format in the Dynasty format?
Only 12 teams, so it's pretty shallow.
Wow, that's an interesting one. And it seems like off the dome, and you're going to be like, oh, man, it's Lonzo Ball. But if you really put things in perspective, it made me actually think a little bit longer just because of there could be a slight glimmer of hope with Markelle Fultz, the prize possession that was the aforementioned #1 draft pick a few years ago in the rookie draft. I'll say it like this. I would still go to the Lonzo Ball side, but what is interesting about Markelle Fultz in particular, the last game that he had was 9 assists, and that was one of the better games that he had, and I had it on the ISO episode that it was an interesting thing to see him to do that. And his minutes is slowly kind of creeping up in that aspect, but, you know, there is still some upside with him, but that's not to say Lonzo Ball doesn't have upside, because he does too. But if I had to choose, I'm still going to take Lonzo Ball in that aspect. But Markelle Fultz, could he potentially be better in the future? Yeah, potentially. But do I want to count my chickens to believe that? I'd rather have someone else do that. That's my thoughts on that there, Jacob.
Right on. What do you think, LT?
Oh, yeah, so I actually think that I'm pretty decisive on this one, especially in the Dynasty format. Got to go with Lonzo Ball. Only reason why I go with Lonzo Ball, because he's proven, right? Markelle Fultz just this year is getting back healthy, getting his shot somewhat respectable on a top. I just don't trust Markelle Fultz right now as much as I trust Lonzo Ball to continue to improve. Lonzo Ball, before he got injured, actually looked very good so far. And like he's actually, worked on his 3-point shot, actually done some work over the summer. I'm taking Lonzo Ball 99.9% of the time, unless if you're a Markelle Fultz fan, especially in a dynasty format. What has Fultz given you where you can actually believe in him? To me, nothing so far. So I would have to go with Lonzo Ball. I would keep him.
Yeah, those are all great points. And it's a very tough decision just because Markelle Fultz is finally living up to his promise, and I've been an avid Fultz backer this year. He finally got a starting job. He's getting the minutes. His shooting is getting a little better, but he offers you no threes. And whereas where LT said Lonzo is offering you those threes, and he also offers blocks for and steals. The only thing is a bummer about Lonzo is the turnovers and the field goal percentage, but I think long term you're going to want to go with Lonzo here, and I'd say that you're selling high on Fultz, even though it's the Lonzo owner that is offering this trade. I think you'd be getting Ball at a discounted price. So yeah, I would definitely side with the Lonzo there. It sounds like we're all in 100% agreement. So with that, I'm going to pass the ball to Starks there to talk about the streamers or whatever else you want to talk about.
Yeah, and last thing about that, just like you guys highlighted it on the steals potential that Lonzo already gives you. And that is kind of weird that you're going to – and you said this is the guy that is in the position of trading Lonzo for the guys Markelle Fultz, is my understanding. Is that correct?
Yeah. So the listener has Fultz, and he was offered Ball for him.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, like you said, I think we're all in agreement with that. You just go ahead and just hit accept like it was yesterday. Mm-hmm. But it's just one of those things. The reason why I still kind of hesitate and pause on that is just because I want to believe Markelle Fultz is something that he potentially could be not. Sure. But, just to get off this situation, yeah, you got to take Lonzo Ball here. But no, we're going to go to the streaming list here. For week 6 to get you guys that punch for the week, because that's very important. Again, if you're looking at the YouTube channel, I laced up the artwork. Jacob put in the hard work behind this article in particular on the fantasy basketball week 6 streamers and waiver wire pickups. So for this week, I want to just pass you the ball there, Jacob. Do you have any players that you want to mention and kind of, let us give us an idea what what actually I know you had mentioned in the last episode, what went behind it, but for those that missed the episode, what kind of goes behind the mastermind of your logic as far as, picking up or, utilizing streaming options versus waiver wire pickups?
Absolutely. Yeah. So what I look at first is opportunity, like who is currently getting the opportunity as far as who's getting consistent minutes, and is there any injuries in front of him so that he would get even more usage. Second, I look at the schedule, like the strength of schedule, and I'll touch up on that with the first player I'll talk about here, and that is my number one streamer for the week is Kelly Olynyk. I feel like a lot of people forget about him just because of all of the Heat's up and coming players, but he's still coming off the bench and getting like those mid 20 minutes. And he has had a 3-pointer in the last 9 games straight, and he always gives you like those low end rebounds, low end assists and steals. So if you are looking for a consistent, at least a big man or threes, then I would give him a look who is widely available across all three platforms here. And then with the schedule, he faces the Hornets, the Rockets, the Warriors, and then the Nets. All 4 teams are easily beatable and easily could be a blowout, giving him some more minutes. So I looked at him as my number one streamer this week. It was really close, but I like him this week as a streamer.
Nice. And who is? If you could scroll down a little bit, LT, I had a favorite clip art for you, just for you, man. I just want to give your thoughts. Shout out to how you feel about Curious George, how you feel about Curious George, LT?
I like how Why So Curious the Clouds have the samurai swords in the back of it still. Like, why is that even there? Like, I don't understand. Like, why exactly? I'm actually disgusted. More disgusted because I actually picked him up and he did good for me. So
there you go.
It's just, man, don't move on.
Yeah. And so if you could scroll down a little bit on the list there, LT, I was going to ask you on maybe, do you have, I know we're actually using, I know for sure I'm using it this week on Jacob's article for the streamers. Is there any recommendations that, sticks out to you, on your thumb and that you're going to probably take in consideration this week?
I was going to say real quick, I don't think unfortunately the list doesn't look like it
disappeared on us.
Yeah, it disappeared on us. So
interesting.
Yeah, interesting. But I'm going to go ahead and check in. To me, just thinking about all the different teams and everything that's actually popped up. I'm sure Norman Powell is still on that list. Kyle Lowry actually has been checked in for another week of being out for injury. So he's a week and a half out. Norman Powell still is a top pickup if he hasn't been picked up already. I'm sure he has been, but you want to look if he's still available. Definitely pick him up as well. I know we just talked about Curious George. If you're in dire straits, no, I'm just kidding. Definitely want to pick up Curious George. He's actually playing really well. I'm not gonna lie. And just to let you know, also we just spoke about him a couple episodes ago. But Chris Dunn, right? Chris Dunn has been killing it, and it's secret, right? It's like like how we like to talk about covert ops. But covert ops actually, he's actually a pickup, right? But Dunn is secretly the highest steals in the league off the bench, and his percentages and everything else are up there. He's not hurting your team at all in any categories. So if he's still available out there, which I think he pretty much is actually, definitely check him out, especially in those 10-man, 12-man leagues. Check him out. He's a good end of the bench player. But other than that, I'll switch the rock over to you, Jacob. Let's see if you have any thoughts.
Yeah, absolutely. So you brought up Chris Dunn, who shows up on my list every single week because he's always so widely available, and he is averaging 2.1 steals a game. And it's usually that. It's not like he has like a game where he gets 5 to 6 steals and it just blows up that stat. He always gets you steals. So if you need steals, pick this man up. Absolutely. That was a great point, LT. George Hill, if you need threes and assists and boards, he is always a low-end, consistent producer for you. So he's not going to hurt you. He's just going to help you in those categories, and he'll get you the occasional steals, but he's getting valuable minutes here for a Bucks team without Middleton. Now to transition to a player who has been performing wonderfully in his absence, that is Dante DiVincenzo. He's been playing great. He's actually been outproducing Wesley Snipes Matthews by a long, huge margin. Like I think the Bucks are so thankful that he's stepping up and they don't have to play him as much because DiVincenzo has been playing great, and he has a great schedule this week. Now, his first game is against the Jazz, who has a tough defense, but then he faces the Hawks and the Cavaliers, and then and then the Charlotte Hornets. So that's a pretty easy schedule thereafter. And he also plays on a slow game day on Saturday. So I would definitely look to pick him up if you need a streamer. What do you think, Starks?
Yeah, that's good. Let me also say this. Another guy that comes to mind, I don't think he was on your article, but this kind of formulated yesterday. There was a spot start on Tony Bradley for Utah as a big. And I've been basically beating this drum for quite some time in a dynasty format. He's a dynasty darling. It's only if he gets the opportunity and time. Now, he had a spot start yesterday. I talked about him yesterday on the podcast going ISO, but in those minutes, he did really well. He only played 21 minutes. Now, he did fall into foul trouble, but if he gets those starter minutes, he's going to be a legitimate guy. He's going to be one of those players that you want in a deep format, like a deep dynasty format. I honestly would love to have him. And before I wanted to get into, is LT remembered, because I'm going to go on ISO, but come back to the waiver wire and kind of talk on the streamers. But before I do that, so this is like a streamer / waiver wire ads article that Jacob does. But what I also like to do is be an aggressive coach when it comes to waiver wire ads, the what if guys. So if you get a what if guy and he could potentially start the rest of the season or get a lot more games than just a spot start, you want to almost essentially be aggressive. Tony Bradley, I am going to try to grab him. Maybe in a little bit of a shallow league, probably like a 12 to 14 man league. Now, Gobert should be fine next game. He should be fine, but it's an ankle injury that he has right now. What if he potentially misses another game? What you could do just to be a little bit of aggressive coach, if you're in a decent spot in the standings, this should help you as a cheat code. A waiver wire, instead of streaming that spot, I would, if you have a bench spot available and you can grab and take a flyer on a player, Tony Bradley would be the guy that I'm going to be aggressively adding in more of a 14 to 16 man league. But if my team warrants it in a 12 man league and I'm in an okay position, I'll grab him. And the thing is, if it doesn't work out, then I'm just going to drop him, right? But if, let's just say hypothetically, Gobert's out for an extended period of time, man, that guy is going to be like a low end type of Gobert. I'm not saying that he is, but the type of stats he can produce at a per 36 number value is going to be nice in return. Now, I understand it was just a summer league that he was exploding, but even last year when he has a little bit of glimmers of light for where he was coming from, he was a solid contributor. And in the Utah type of team, that's something to take in consideration. But let me also segue and go ISO on this particular. Now, I know you guys had talked about Chris Dunn there, and that was a beautiful thing. Now, LT, as you remember, a few episodes ago, we were doing the Guess Who game. Remember that, LT?
Oh, I remember. Guess who? Guess who lost? Yeah, go ahead.
So in that Guess Who game, you know, obviously the value is different, but I'm going to pass you the ball here, Jacob, and ask you this question. Who do you think in the ADP wise was the best player in Chicago a few days ago?
A few days ago?
Yeah.
Are we talking about before Zach LaVine's huge blow-up game?
Yep, exactly. Exactly before that, yep.
Highest rated ADP on the Bulls. I'm going to go with Kobe White.
Yeah, see, that unfortunately he was wrong. I'll just kind of do this game with you because I gave him 2 shots.
Okay.
You get one more charity stripe shot. That was 1 missed free throw, so that's okay. Take one more shot there, brother.
Well, okay, so if it's not Kobe White after his huge surge, then Wendell Carter Jr.
Nope, that's incorrect.
It's Chris Dunn.
Exactly. It's Chris Dunn.
Wow.
It's Chris Dunn. Right.
Wow.
And the thing is, we in fantasy, you know, as fantasy GMs and owners, we're like, well, how's that possible? Well, here's an additional cheat code for those that missed the last episode with me and LT is that, you know, when it comes to value on players in the 9-cat category league, 3-pointers is obviously a good potent category to have. But as I mentioned a few years ago, about 5 years ago, the average mean or Z score of 3-point shots was 1 average a game, at least. Now, since everybody's shooting threes and making them at a higher clip, it's around the 1.4 to 1.5 average for a player. So if you're averaging at least 1 in a 9-cat category league, that's not good enough. That's not average. That's what's crazy, right? Steals, on the other hand, it's about 1 to 1.1 average. And as you guys know, steals and blocks are a little bit of a harder category to get, right? That's why people call them either hustle stats or stock stats. And I know there's some people that don't like the terminology of stock stats, but I don't know why that is. But anyways, let me just say it like this. Chris Dunn, as LT was saying, he pulled up the charts that Chris Dunn was leading in steals. And I was shocked to see that. But the value, what was pumping up his ADP value is because he was getting those steals in particular, because a lot of players are not getting steals. And if you need steals in your league, in a 9-cat category league, and honestly, in a points league, it's handy too. But if you need those steals, that's something to not overlook. And last time I checked, I can't see it, but Chris Dunn in a Yahoo format, he was only owned at, look at 22%. Owned in Yahoo formats. That's sad. That's really sad. That should be a lot higher than 22%. Just like how you had mentioned, Jacob. If you need steals, go ahead and stream them. Don't be afraid. Just go ahead and do it. But that's why in a 9-cat category league, Chris Dunn was the best player in Chicago. He could potentially still be, but let me just also backtrack a little bit and say this. Just because his ADP is the highest currently right now, that's not the end-all, be-all, to let the listeners know, just to give you a heads up. But I will pass you the ball on your thoughts on that, Jacob, and if there's any other streaming guys you want to talk about there, brother.
Yeah, I just want to say Chris Dunn, he has been under-owned all year. You know, like as I said earlier, he keeps showing up on my streaming list because so our streaming list goes, they have to be 50% or so under 50% owned in all Yahoo, ESPN, and Fantrax leagues. So Chris Dunn has been criminally under-owned throughout the whole season, yet he keeps producing those steals, a tough stat to stream. So Chris Dunn, you know, he's owned in 22% of Yahoo leagues, as we can see. He's owned in 9% of ESPN leagues, and now his ownership is finally starting to creep up in Fantrax to 47%, whereas it used to be in the teens and the low 20s, but now they're catching on for sure. So yeah, I love Chris Dunn for sure. And so so other streamers I like this week. I know. So let's see. I have Duncan Robinson as one of my top ads and top streamers, just because anyone who can make 9 threes in one game deserves attention everywhere. So especially with the schedule that he's getting this week and the amount of volume he's getting, he is a perfect streamer for those in need or want threes. I don't even care if you're desperate for threes. If you want threes, I would go for him right now. He is hot right now, and at least in Yahoo, he is eligible as a shooting guard, a small forward, and a power forward, which is extremely valuable. So I would definitely take a shot on him. Now, I felt a little bit dirty adding this next gentleman onto my list, but Nicholas Batum, who is a blast from the past boy here. You know, he's been steadily producing ever since he got off the IL a few games ago. The Hornets have been showcasing him and playing him in the mid-20s, even though there's no need to play him on a wasteland team. I think they're just trying to trade him off for either assets, or I heard that they're interested in Andre Drummond. I don't know if you guys heard that, but you know, I feel like they're trying to showcase him, and in that time, you know, he's getting the minutes, he's getting the low end stats with like the threes and the points, boards, assists, and steals and stuff. So he is a solid option for as long as the Hornets are trying to showcase him, or just, you know, as long as he's getting minutes in the mid-20s, he'll be a solid streamer for you for sure. And I'll pass the ball to LT there. So if you want to talk more about your boy.
Batum, I'll be honest with you, there's nothing more to say. You said everything about him. There's nothing really special about old Bones Batum, but he is getting the minutes, right, Jacob? He's getting the minutes, and you gotta stream him if you can. Now, I am going to talk about someone on this list that makes me sad, right? Patty Mills. So Patty Mills has been producing on a low minute basis, but the reason why Patty Mills on your list makes me sad is because it's a direct effect on Murray's pomade. And we know we've been talking about Maurice Pomade a lot lately, and it is time to panic. It's time to panic a little bit in San Antonio. He didn't play, and of course, the game he doesn't play, it was a scheduled rest day for him because he's on a minutes restriction. But the game he doesn't play, they snapped their 8-game losing streak.
All right.
So Derek White plays in that game, plays pretty well. I mean, he wasn't a world beater or anything, but plays pretty well. Now, they were against the Knicks. That has to count for something, right? They were against the Knicks. But I'm a little worried. So for all my Maurice Pomade owners out there, I'll give it 1 to 2 more games to see where his minutes go, because I think he has a 25-minute limit, but he's been getting like 20 minutes and Patty Mills with Derek White winning. We may need to look into now in dynasty formats. It's a little different. You probably want to hold him in dynasty formats, but in 12 to 14, 12, especially 10-man, you probably don't even have them. But 12-man to 14-man leagues. We'll give him 1 to 2 more games, and we might have to cut bait for a hot free agent. One of these hot, like Kim Birch, or or even like we were just talking about, Duncan Robinson, DeAndre Hunter. Just a couple people here that look pretty tasty, and I can't be just holding out on Maurice Pomade forever. So that's just how I think. I'll switch the ball over to you, Starks, if you have any thoughts on this list.
Yeah, real quick on top of that, like Pomade's Murray, again, like you kind of said in the redraft format, as soon as he has maybe a couple of games of hot games in particular, I'm going to try to trade him as quickly as I can. I just don't want to. I don't want to deal with that musical chair game with the guard situation in San Antonio. Yeah. But like you said, in a dynasty format, you got to just be patient. I think better days are going to come for him regardless. Yeah. But DeAndre Hunter, I will say this. This guy, honestly, he's more of a waiver wire ad. I'm sorry, can you guys hear me? Because I'm having some bad service here.
Yeah.
Can you hear me still? Perfect. So I'll say DeAndre Hunter, I'm actually excited to try to take not maybe a stream approach, but more of a speculative ad in that aspect, because the last 2 games he had 35 minutes. That's something that I look at, and he had a very solid game outputting here recently. I think he dropped 6 3-pointers or something of that nature. But in Atlanta, that we're looking at, obviously with the fast-paced offense that they run, we know it's a Trae Young and John Collins team. We get it, but Hunter X Hunter, what I like to call him, is getting the minutes there right now. And Jabari Parker, it's not to say Jabari Parker is the odd man out, but potentially he could be when John Collins comes back. But Hunter, as this time progresses on, as LT is pulling the stats there, the 35 minutes, he's been, and then 29 before that, the 34 minutes before that. In one of those games, even earlier, he had 40 minutes, and he's pulling up those stats. That's a beautiful sight to see. In Yahoo, I believe he's about 34% owned. He needs to be additionally, I think that needs to change here immediately. If there's a waiver wire pickup that you need to be a little bit more aggressive on, if you like upside plays like I do, or even the gentleman here with me, you want to take the upside play on Hunter, and he could be a potential, I'm not saying a league winner, but he could give you that punch. Obviously, there's going to be inconsistencies with him as a rookie, but I'm going to take my chance and see how things work out. Unfortunately, I have him in none of my leagues, and he's probably available in the shallow league points league that I forgot. I was going to stream him, but who did I stream instead like a clown? I think it was a player that was going to give me 2 games, but I just knew that DeAndre Hunter, he wasn't going to give me 2 games the way that I was trying to stream. But that is what it is. And one more player that I want to talk about, I know we kind of mentioned it here, the last couple of episodes, is Brad Wanamaker, the Juwana Man, or whoever you want to call him, right? Wanamaker is a guy that I just think he needs to be he's been giving you the underrated value. Now, in a dynasty format, I picked him up even before this Kemba Walker injury happened. And Kemba, to be fair, just like, Jacob had mentioned, he shouldn't be out too long, right? It's just a concussion. So, and LT said maybe out a few games. So there is, light outside of the tunnel. But even so, when he comes back, I think Wanamaker is still going to hold a little bit of value, because even before Kemba was there, he was, or before Kemba got hurt, he was still giving some decent production. That's because Gordon Hayward, G. Hay, has been out, and he's picked up the slack in that aspect. And I know there's been the thoughts of Carson Edwards to probably get some, minutes too. Now, in a deep, very deep format, you can kind of consider that in that aspect. Scout Labissiere, he didn't. He basically fell flat on his face the last game. Everybody was chomping at the bit after he had that explosion game. LT, we were kind of watching that game, and it's like, man, is this guy Labisa? Is he finally here? There was a listener had mentions like, so it only took 4 or 5 years for him to come back. Is this real Starks? I'm like, yeah, guess what? You can take a flyer on him, but, I'm not going to really believe it until I see it more often, because I know Jacob is a guy also that likes consistency, and obviously he fell flat on his face. Now, that's not to say that he can't at least do something back, but I'll say this. When the game that he just fell flat on his face, Whiteside wasn't there, so you thought he was going to come through for you. Unfortunately, he didn't. Mikal Bridges, is another guy that Jacob has on this list. I'll say this real quick about Mikal Bridges. I know it's hard to basically stomach the performance that he's doing, and I admitted this to you. I want to actually admit this to you now, Jacob. You wasn't here, but I want to say that I think you're right about Kelly Oubre, because I was kind of going back and forth with Kelly Oubre. Like, I don't know. Yeah. I don't know, but he is looking good. Yeah. And the way he's looking, getting the minutes like you called it, man, it's really putting a damper on Mikal Bridges' value right now. But he's still someone to take in consideration. Maybe in the future, honestly, in a dynasty format, I would still like to have him. I'll pass you the ball there, Jacob, if there's any other guys you want to talk about.
I love those points, Starks. Very good, yeah. I wanted to touch up on a streamer / a waiver wire pickup that I actually didn't add in here, but I think deserves so much more attention. And it's a guard from Detroit named Langston Galloway.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
He's a punchline here, but my goodness, if you go over his stats and look at the amount of minutes he's playing virtually the whole game here. 40 minutes, 27 minutes, 40 minutes, 38 minutes. It's insane. And look at all those three-pointers. He's, 3 threes, 4 threes, 3 threes, 7 threes. This guy, they won't take him off the court, and for good reason. He's offering you a lot of points, a lot of threes, poor field goal. So if you need help in field goal percentage, he's not your guy, but he will help you in threes, points, some boards, some assists, and that's pretty much it. I just think he is so under-owned. As you can see here on Yahoo, he's 29% owned. In ESPN, he's 5% owned. In Fantrax, he's 44% owned. So he's getting a little bit more respect over there. But I think as long as the Pistons have all these injury bugs like Blake and like Rose, and Luke Kennard's starting to slow down a little bit. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't panic too much because there's plenty of time to right that ship. But Langston Galloway deserves more attention, and I want to see what you guys think about that. If you guys agree or not, I'm going to pass the ball to you there, Starks.
Yeah, real quick on that, and I'll pass the ball right back to LT on this. It's funny. I think me and LT was talking about Langston Galloway one of these episodes, and it's like we can't ignore what he's doing. He's getting the minutes, and he's providing the threes. Yeah, you definitely got to at least have him on your team roster if you can afford it. LT, what's your thoughts there, brother?
Hey, man, I almost stole the ball from you, Jacob. I literally right before this podcast picked him up in one of my leads. Literally right before this podcast, picked him up. He was available. I had an injury, and so I had a free player this week coming up, and I had Vooch on one of my teams, so I have to pick someone else, and he was the best player available, so I picked him up early. So yeah, definitely, if you're looking for just steady minutes, that's. For me, one of my biggest things is opportunity, right? Like, if you have the opportunity, the stats will come, right? You can, luck into a steal or a block one game. Look at that, 1 steal, 1 block for him. When you're playing 40 minutes on the court, you're gonna luck into a couple of nice stats. So that's just the way that it is, and he has the opportunities now. And on that Detroit team, like you said, Jacob, people are injured, people aren't playing a lot. Right. There's minute restrictions all over the place, so. Still, there's a guy on that team that even in his minute restriction still kills it. A Rose by any other name, but I was waiting for that reaction from Starks. But yeah, gotta get him. And also, There's someone else I wanted to touch up on. We were just talking about him, but now I can't think of it because Langston Galloway took my mind. But yeah, man, Langston, if you have the availability and the options, that's what I want to talk about. Scal Labissiere, right?
Yeah.
If this tells you anything about Scal Labissiere, they started Tolliver at center.
Yes.
they started Anthony Tolliver.
Classic Blazers.
At center. Right? At center. Right? That doesn't make any sense, right? You would think they would at least start Scal, right? It does, right? It does. Yeah, that's right. They don't trust him against Tristan Thompson, against Biscuits for Triscuits. They started Anthony Tolliver and not Scal Labissiere. That just tells you how much they believe in him. And so take a flyer on him if you have the space, but man, I wouldn't. I wouldn't. I'll kick it back over to you, Starks.
Okay, yeah, thanks. There's two things I want to say real quick. Obviously, I actually got a listener question I want to actually put out there live. This one is a tough one. You guys are going to be put on the spot here. So this is a trade offer. I get this trade offer. Who wins? And so the offer is this. It is Fred Flintstone VanVleet and SGA for Isaac and Graham Crackers, Devontae Graham. Which side do you choose there, LT?
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, obviously there's some context to that, but just off the names alone, I'm taking that VanVleet SGA. Just off the names alone. I want to say the Isaac trade only because right now Isaac is going to be a monster right now, right? He's going to be a monster with all these bodies out. I got to think about with Vooch, with Gordon in the lineup, Isaac in that trade. I got to take the VanVleet SGA. That's tough,
Jacob.
That's tough,
Jacob.
Yeah. That's funny. It seems like a tough trade to choose, but I actually side with the Isaac and Graham side. And honestly, for me, it's not close. Just because of what Isaac provides in a 9-cat league. If this almost 3 blocks a game, 1.5 steals, low assists, 7 rebounds. And he plays 30 minutes a game with efficient field goal. So, I mean, and then Graham is having an insane year. Now I know it's tough because SGA is getting all this opportunity but I'm not the biggest Fred fan, as you guys know.
Fred Flanders is sweet too. Ned Flanders is sweet too.
I don't like him wrecking your field goal percentage. Even though he had, all these guys have all the opportunity. So it comes down to who's more valuable. And to me, I would much rather have Isaac's blocks and steals. And the field goal percentage, but that's just me. I want to see what you think, Starks, man.
I'm a still the rock real quick.
Yes,
can I still the rock?
Go ahead.
So Jacob, it's funny. I would have said probably the same thing.
Okay.
Before this little game we had the other day with Starks, right? We had this game about who had the highest KDA, Call of Duty, right? ADP. On the and we went over the Raptors.
Okay.
And I'm a Raptors guy, but the top ADP on the Raptors was Fred Flintstone.
Okay.
And that made me start looking at Fred Flintstone's stats, what he's been doing this year, how consistent, his minutes. And that is to be honest, that's the only reason why I'm not taking that Isaac side, Graham side, because of what VanVleet's done. And some of his stats were even with Lauri in the lineup. So, so that was changed my mind. That's why this to me, this trade is a little tougher because I was like you, man. I'm not a big Fred Flintstone guy, but me seeing those stats and what he's been doing, I can't ignore it. So I'm gonna pass it over to Starks.
Oh man. Listen, Jacob, you said it was okay. So I know you said it was tough, Jacob, but you said it's easily for you the Jonathan Isaac side. Is that what
I saw those eyes when I said that. Yeah, I mean, like if I saw this trade, I would jump all over Isaac.
Listen, this is for me. I was second, triple. I'm overthinking this. Right? It's just very hard. And when you throw me a question like who wins this trade, man, listen. What I'm going to always tell you, like listeners, like what do you need for your team? I mean, that's going to be a big component of that. Do you need guards, right? Those are two guards right there for like a wing / is he kind of like a center there? I don't know if he's a center. I don't think he is like a power forward, Jonathan Isaac. Yeah. And then you got Graham Crackers, Devontae Graham, that's been an explosive player this year. Mm-hmm. But man, Jacob, for me, it's not that easy. It really isn't, because the reason why is it's like Fred VanVleet, Fred Flintstone, Ned Flanders, right? Look what he's doing. Look what he's doing this year. Like of course, like I kept saying, like in the beginning of the year, like, oh, this, don't worry about it. This ain't going to last. Kyle Lowry's also out, so this helps his value. And essentially it does. But this guy's averaging, I believe, 1.8 steals in the last week or so. He's been averaging 2+ steals. And that's something that I don't ignore, right? I think those hustle stats is very important. Now, that's not, to me, do I think it's sustainable? No. But also I had went on, of course, you guys know I'm big on Jonathan Isaac. Mm-hmm. But what also I think is a little bit of an outlier, the 3 blocks that he's having, I mean, that's excellent, close to it. I don't know if that's sustainable for him. So I think that starts to dry up a little bit as far as that goes. But Jonathan Isaac still gives you those steals too. So this is really tough. Mm-hmm. But the biggest thing that I'm looking at here is the Fred VanVleet. What's the likelihood of him keeping up this pace? It doesn't seem sustainable just because of obviously Kyle Lowry's not there. Right. Exactly. So I was going back and forth, and you guys brought up points to try to it was convincing me on both sides. It's just slightly for me, Isaac's side, just a smidget because of the blocks there. And as you guys know, if you're not getting blocks, then and then if you could do something else that's good, at least Jonathan Isaac does more than blocks, right? So that helps his value in that aspect. And that's why I just slightly take it. But that's not even to say that Fred VanVleet, Fred Flintstone, Ned Flanders can't. It doesn't mean that he can't do it. Now, here's the interesting thing right here, though. We kind of we had it so focused on those two that we're not even looking at SGA and Devontae Graham, right? It almost seems like this is hard to swallow. Is it one of those things that we're thinking that's a push? It should not be. SGA should be the better player. That's what we should think, right? Mm-hmm. But the question is he really better? Right. And I hope that's not. I hope I'm not really saying that, because I don't want to believe that it has to be questioned that way. You would think SGA is the better player, and he should be, right? Mm-hmm. But it does make me think because of how Devontae Graham is being used. Obviously, in OKC with SGA being utilized, that's typically his team. But Devontae Graham has taken the bull by the horns essentially there too. In a dynasty format, yes, I'm still probably going to take the Isaac side. Redraft league, unfortunately, I'm just going to say what is the need of your team, but just slightly on Jonathan Isaac. But I'm honestly, LT, I'm almost with you there because Flintstone has been killing it this year, man. And I do expect his value to drop somehow, some way. But I also expect Jonathan Isaac value. As you guys know, I'm big on him, but I expect his value to drop a little bit too. So, but one player I definitely want to talk about, getting off that ISO for the streaming options here. I think it only makes sense to talk about your boy. Go ahead, LT, if you can give me. I know I can't see, but can you give me the Carmelo 3-point to the dome for me, brother?
Ooh, yeah. Oh, actually, no one can see me real quick. Okay, boom, boom, 3.
Perfect. Perfect. Because I was going to say this in this aspect. Now, this came on the heels of Damian Lillard coming back, right? It's gross for me to say this, but Carmelo's probably worth a pickup at this point in time too. Carmelo got a lot of shots this last game. Now he looks slow. He's doing the old school. He's backing people to the basket and taking them shots. And I remember that game against Milwaukee. I seen him try to do that to Giannis, and Giannis quickly stripped the ball from him. He had none of that.
Yeah.
He had none of that.
Yo, it's like an old.
Go
it's
ahead,
like
brother.
I was gonna say it's like an old school player at the court. You know when you go play pickup ball.
Yeah.
There's an old school player out there doing like old like hook shots and stuff like that. You're like, what are you doing? What are you doing, man? That's how Carmelo's playing right now.
Old man.
Yeah, man.
Out there calling bank, probably that's real,
right.
man. Oh my gosh! But it's gross. It's gross for me to say that he's got to be a pickup. I mean, you got to think about it. For him to get 15 attempts, that's with CJ and that's with Damian Lillard. They're utilizing him, and he started too, and he got some decent minutes. He took 8 snipes that game, although he missed them all. He took the shots, and maybe they might start learning that might not be the recipe of winning games of starting him.
Right.
But I'll say this: Simons and Nasir Little, they lost minutes because of that. So I'll pass you the ball, LT. What's your thoughts, man?
Yeah. So this is funny about Melo, man. He looks. So it's funny. I was watching the game yesterday against the Cavs, and the announcer, the Cavs. Of course, I'm in Ohio. The Cavs announcer was like, "Now you know Carmelo. He's not going to drive to the basket off those pick and rolls. He's going to fade every time to the 3-point line." And he sure enough, every time, faded to the 3-point line. That never went into the paint. And I'm just like, Carmelo, you got it. That's when he was good, right? He was able to play that inside outside game. He's taking way too many jumpers right now, but that's what he's gonna have to do, right? He was open on a lot of those 3-point shots, so he's gonna have to hit those in order for him to be successful and stay in that starting lineup. But yeah, this is definitely a hit to Nasir Little. They're going with Rodney Hood they're pairing Rodney Hood with Carmelo Anthony. I'm not a big fan of that, but that's what they're going with. So it's our defense. I guess we don't have Whiteside, so you can't take too much bank into the defensive side of the ball. But yeah, he's going to get opportunities. He's going to get 15 shots. He is the third man in Portland now. That's going to unfortunately that bumps down Bazemore. That bumps down Hood a little bit. Why are you chuckling? That bumps down a lot of other players that we were high on.
Killing that team.
Yeah, Simons and Nazir, they're still gonna get run in that second unit. But even the issue with Simons, yeah, they are, but they're gonna be 20 minutes or below now. I don't think either one of them go past 20 minutes, unfortunately. And it's almost necessary, but then like I see the White Knight shaking his head. It's almost at a detriment of our young guys, right? Like we kind of need to develop them. And I'm going to pass the rock to you, White Knight. I feel like you have something to say about it.
Thank you. He is stunting the growth of all these Blazers. He is a true cancer to that team. And they've lost 3 games in a row. All 3 games that he's played in, they have lost. So I can definitely see them cutting him if they keep losing, because there is no reason to have him on your team if you're not winning games. Because, like you guys have said, Simons, his growth is stunted.
Little
Bazemore, Hood, Nasir Little. I mean, like, these are all players who are just watching Melo huck up these threes. It's like, if I want to watch this, I can go to the YMCA and watch him do this. You know what I mean? This is ridiculous.
I get what you're saying, White Knight, but he's not the reason we're losing games, right? So he's not helping right now, but he's not the reason we're losing games. We're losing games because, to be honest, our bench, our young guys aren't developed. So when they get in there, I think I watched them last night. It was hard to watch. They like, our backups were in, and like we were like getting outscored by Jordan Clarkson alone. Like Clarkson was like Clark dancing all over us, man. I can't even just stand it. But 2 games without listen. I'm gonna give Carmelo about a month, okay, 30 days to really see if this works.
Generous.
I'm going to give him 30 days to really see if this works in a starting lineup. If it doesn't work after 30 days, we're probably out of playoff contention anyway. So he's gonna go on the bench. They're gonna play Nazir Little probably a lot more, but that's a wait and see. Right now, pick him up in fantasy. He's pumping up the volume. We know we like those PUVs, those PUVs, those pump up the volume characters, and he's definitely pumping up the volume right now. Not shy at all.
Not shy at all. And like I said, he is going to wreck your field goal percentage, but as long as he's getting those minutes, I mean, he's going to be a fantasy contributor because he gets you those threes and those rebounds and those assists. So as long as the Blazers are giving him minutes and he's on that team, he's going to contribute. Like Stark said, I mean, like, it's gross, but I would definitely add him in as low as a 12-man a 12-man league for sure. So I'll pass the rock back to you there, Starks.
Yeah, so oh man, why you had to drop the YMCA on him, man? You really went.
Sorry, brother. Oh, man. Went for his neck again.
Oh man, that's classic. No, that's good. That's good stuff there. So I got nothing else there. I wanted to actually touch up on the Dynasty guy. I wanted to have a little bit more time. Unfortunately, not. But one guy, wait a minute, real quick. LT, do you have any other streaming well, actually, no, Jacob, I'm sorry. That's what I meant to ask you. Is there any back-to-back games this week or not really so much that we should consider next week?
You know what's a bummer? I talked about this in the article, but there's very few back-to-back games because there's no games on Thanksgiving. So they really tried to spread it out. So if you scroll up, are you at it? You're at okay. The chart is not showing up, but there is a back-to-back game, on I think it's Monday and Tuesday. The Clippers play, back-to-back, and forgive us guys. We're trying
Clippers. You're right. So Tuesday and Wednesday Clippers. That's the back-to-back game. And then Fridays.
And then what's the Friday, Saturday? Who's the teams that have the back-to-back?
Yeah, so that for Friday, Saturday is just Atlanta, Charlotte, Indiana, Milwaukee, and Philadelphia.
Yeah, so that's a part of the reason why I like these Bucks coming up, the George Hill and Dante DiVincenzo, and even Sterling Brown. He's been producing. So all of you guys in a deep league, he is available in 99% of Yahoo and ESPN leagues, and he's only owned in 15% of Fantrax leagues. So Sterling Brown is getting those minutes and providing you steady stats, and so is the Hawks center Damian Jones. They just sent down Bruno Fernando, which is a huge bummer to all of us Dynasty heads, but Damian Jones is getting minutes in the low to mid 20s, and he's getting you a block and boards and points. So he is available in a ton of leagues if you want to pick him up, especially with those back-to-back games Friday, Saturday, and also playing on that slow Saturday slate. So that's what I got there, Starks. You got any more thoughts there, LT?
No, man, you touch up on anything. That sounds amazing, and definitely watch out for those back-to-backs. Not a lot, but watch out for them. I'll pass the rock over to you, Starks.
Yeah, real quick, we got a report that Rubio is going to be out again Sunday. So if you can stream quickly before this, whenever you hear this episode, if it's fast enough, then Cameron Johnson is a guy, and Tyler Johnson could be potential spot starts for you in a fantasy format. And another guy I want to just mention, as I was able to look at something real quick for next week, is DeAndre Bembry. Bembry's getting the minutes there in Atlanta. That's something that we can't overlook. I mean, Atlanta, definitely. He's getting some good assists, some counting stats for you. He's getting the minutes, and that's something that's beautiful. We could start getting to the clutch shots. My clutch shot will be kind of real quick, a highlight of the Dynasty player. And honestly, if you guys want to join in, and LT, if you got anybody in the redraft that you want to touch up on, and then Jacob on the points league, if you want to touch up on somebody. So I'll start giving the commercial here. So you guys check out our website. It's newlifefantasy.com. Make sure you guys join the mailing list. Join as a member for free. Definitely helps the site out, helps us out to continue to grow, and for us to do daily podcasts each day. So make sure that you check out our podcast. Well, you're already checking out because you're listening, but subscribe to the podcast of Take a Ride. 5-star rating if you have iTunes. Also review it if you have iTunes, but we're available on pretty much all podcast formats. Tell your friend, and I know you guys are competitive in your league like I am and we are, but still share your the information with your friends so that way it'll help them to get stronger against you in your league. Also, make sure you check out the YouTube channel. Sub-Zero that subscribe button at the bottom. Hit that dinner bell so that way you can be notified whenever a YouTube channel or episode is dropped as well. Comment below on things you want to see on the future episodes as well. Give us a thumbs up. It helps us to continue to get things going. So in that aspect, for the Dynasty, I guess for the Dynasty logic on a player that I'll just kind of highlight on it real quick is Devontae Graham Crackers, Teddy Graham. So this is going to be kind of hard to do an analytical logic in this because it's like he kind of came out this year. You know, you got Terry Rozier. They spent that money there in Charlotte. So you're like, well, you know, is he going to be this guy in the future? As I had mentioned before, I would rather, and it's hard for me to stomach this because as you guys know, I'm a Kendrick Nunn fan for those listeners that I've been beating that drum way earlier in the season before he's had his come out party. But I think his situation is more solidified versus Kendrick Nunn. So Devontae Graham, honestly, he's probably the pickup player of the year in your draft, whether you're in a redraft format, points leagues. If you're in a dynasty format and you picked him up or you drafted him, good job because this guy is coming out. You know, I think that's really important to say. In that aspect is I think he could be a top 75 player this year. And to be able to pluck that out from the waiver wire, that's a game changer for you. That's definitely excellent punch for your team. Now, the 3-point shots that he takes, he looks very comfortable on that offense in Charlotte. You know, it's like, who else is going to take the shots there? As I wrote an article about Wasteland Team, Charlotte, I did mention him, but it was just like, who is going to be the player that, you know, is going to come out of Charlotte that needs to be important, that needs to be highlighted on? There's always a player that comes to the top, the cream of the crop on a Wasteland team, and it looks like Devontae Graham is. That's not to say Miles Bridges isn't, because I mentioned him before too. A couple games ago, he dropped 31, but this moment is for Devontae Graham. So anyways, the likelihood of him running that offense and running that team is looking solid right now. Of course, things can change because they paid the contract for Rozier, but I think he is it's hard for me to say this, but I think he is the better player than Terry Rozier at this time. So you could take that to the bank at this point in time, and that is a beautiful sight to see. I will pass you the ball there, Jacob, if there's a points specialist that you want to talk about in particular there, brother.
Yeah, so there is a blast from the past name that I wanted to talk about that you should consider adding or streaming this week, and that is Rajon Rondo. You know, a blast from the past. He's getting those minutes right now. Like he's averaging about like 25 minutes a game. And ever since Avery Bradley went down, he has been the 6th or 7th man off the bench. And he's getting you those assists like he always does. He's getting you some points, he's getting you some boards, and he's getting you those steals. So he is available in a vast amount of Yahoo, ESPN, and Fantrax leagues. So if you need a points league streamer, he's definitely going to fill up that box. So I would definitely give him a hard look this week if you're looking for something in a points league and your free agent list is just drying up. I would definitely give him a look with a solid schedule. I mean, he plays the Spurs, the Hornets, the Wizards, and then the Mavericks. So I would definitely give him a look for sure. I'll pass the ball back to Starks.
Yeah, and then one more thing before I pass the ball to LT is in a dynasty outlook I meant to also mention on Devontae Graham is I wouldn't be surprised in a redraft league next year he might be drafted in the 60s. So I could really see that happening just because of the performance that he's doing. Is it sustainable? It's tough to say, but I think it could be like as a top 75 player. And maybe next year he's a top 60 player. The year after that, so in a 3-year span, maybe on his 3rd year, he could potentially be a top 50 player. So keep your eyes out on that, and hopefully he doesn't fade away and disappear. But I will pass you the ball there, LT. Is there a redraft guy that you want to talk about in particular there, brother?
Yeah. Definitely want to talk about redraft. Just to follow up on Rondo, that's a pretty good point, White Knight. I have been scoping him out. He's definitely been, since Avery Bradley went down, been doing pretty well. And then Devontae Graham Starks right now, he's right at 50. If he can, if he stays where he's at, he's a top 50 player right now. And there's a opportunity for him to keep what he's doing, maybe do better. He could be underneath there. So that's crazy to think. And the one player that I'm going to talk on is Kobe White. Redraft format right now. Kobe White actually is only in Yahoo, and that's usually where all my leagues are at. But I'll have to check out the others. But 45% owned right now. Just criminally under-owned in Yahoo formats right now. Pick him up. If he's available in your league, run, don't walk, to go pick up this guy. He is killing it. He had a little sprained ankle, but then he had 34 minutes in this last game here. 28 points, 3 assists, 2 rebounds, 2 steals, and he is just he is the future. Eventually down the line, I can see this guy starting, and he's probably owned in dynasty format, Starks. I'm sure you're aware of that. More than likely, he's picked up. But in redraft formats, 12 teams, even 10 teams, to be honest with you, if you have room or availability, he could be worth a spot on any of your bench. He's getting the minutes, and he has the opportunity. He's jacking up these shots. He's pumping up the volume. It's just a beautiful sight to see. And so that is my redraft. I'm going to pass the rock over to you, Starks.
Yeah, that's all I have there, gentlemen. Did you guys want any additional clutch shots, or are you guys good?
I also wanted to add that if you guys can look out for our Thanksgiving article coming out this Wednesday, it will be a fun read going over all of our listener answered question on who they are most thankful for. So be on the lookout for that for sure.
Yeah, you guys, just like on Jacob's profile there on Twitter, just make sure that if you got any comments, to just put any comments on that Thanksgiving, who you're thankful for. But as he said, on Wednesday is the article going to be dropped, so on who we should be thankful for this year in particular in fantasy. And with that said, I will pass you the ball there, Jacob. Again, where can they find you out there, brother?
You can find me on Twitter at Ain't Done Yet, as you can see there on the screen. Thank you, LT. And Done is spelled D-U-N-N-E. I would love for you guys to follow me to answer that question, or just to ask me any questions, guys. God bless you. I'll pass the ball there back to you, Starks.
All right. So you guys can actually follow me on Twitter. I'm at Starks_industry. You can also find me on Instagram, One Closing Hero. I'm more active on Twitter, so reach out to me, ask me any questions, and give me a follow. And like I said, ask me a question and I'll get to you at a prompt time. If I don't get to your question a lot sooner than later, I do apologize, but I will get to your question as quickly as possible to give you guys a quick diagnosis on what I think. If you want me to dig a little bit deeper, just ask me. In that aspect, I'll pass you the ball there. LT, where can they find you at there, brother?
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram, _Sage Network _. I'm also on Twitter. I'm trying to keep track of my Twitter a little better these days. You can find me on Twitter at Sage Network X for any of your questions. If you have questions about anything else, I do have a plethora of knowledge in many things. So if you have any questions whatsoever, come shoot me a question. I'm glad to take it. God bless.
All right, guys. God bless you. We love you, listeners. So with that being said, have a good evening, morning, afternoon, and take a ride.